Welcome to another episode of Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. This is the Evan Neal episode, emergency podcast on Talking Ball here to discuss a wild turn of events and crazy, stunning comments out of the Giants locker room. First, I want to tell you about BetOnline. Football is back, and BetOnline is your number one information source for all your sports wagering info with all the up-to-the-minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals from the NFL and college football at your fingertips with BetOnline's real-time updates on stats, news, and odds from week one all the way to the college football playoff and Super Bowl. BetOnline gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And where I start, you know it by now. I'm recording this and recording it quickly because I'm on my way to the Giants training facility on Thursday to possibly hear from Evan Neal in person in the locker room to hear about what Brian Daboll has to say, what Neal's teammates have to say about these shocking comments that the Giants right tackle made to Darryl Slater of NJ Advanced Media. Everybody knows them by now. He called fans sheep. He said that people who criticize him flip hot dogs and hamburgers. He said it condescendingly. He mocked people's livelihoods. Of course, Evan Neal eventually apologized on social media, but you can see the fans already received the message. And based on how the team is playing, how Neal is playing, and the fact that he said this, they're not receiving it well. I wanted to make three primary points about this situation. First of all, I think the headline, I believe the headline, I know the headline to this story is not Evan Neal. It is Brian Daboll. It is the whole operation Joe Schoen, Brian Daboll, John Mara, and the Giants are running right now. Evan Neal popping off like this with how he's playing and how this team is faring is reflective of the fact that Daboll has no control of this team. Evan Neal ripping the fans. Players in every game shoving, getting unnecessary roughness penalties after the whistle, lack of discipline, lack of intelligence on the field, lack of accountability for what they are doing on the field for these mistakes. It's like they think being tough means knocking a guy over a pile and getting a 15-yard penalty after the whistle. This is reflective of the fact that Brian Daboll and the Giants, through a year and a half now, this team does not practice hard in training camp. They baby guys with their bodies. They try to keep them healthy. They give guys rest days all over the place. Players get to do whatever they want. When you have a loose ship, when you run a program where everybody can do whatever they want, when things like this start happening, there is no way you can get a hold of it and stop it. Because then you can't start saying, wait, we're going to do things differently. Wait, we're going to clamp down. This is a tight ship now. We're not going to let you get away with everything you did. We're going to start practicing harder. We're going to have more practices and pads, in the next week. You start clamping down on guys and changing your program and your style and your management style, then you completely lose the team. But to me, this is reflective of the fact that these players can feel like they can say something like this. And that leads to my second point. My second point is that Evan Neal will never come back from this in New York. He apologized, which it was good to see. And that was the right thing to do. But in New York, in the Northeast in general, in most sports, any diehard sports city, you don't get away with stuff like this. You don't get away with criticizing the fans who are paying hard-earned money to come watch you, a millionaire, play, especially when you are playing poorly. Leonard Williams was the most recent player. This is a guy with status, been to a Pro Bowl, makes a lot of money because of the way he has played in the league and has, been durable from his time with the Jets and the Giants. And when I believe it was last season, went after the fans a little bit in a press conference, he caught plenty of blowback too. Now that's a guy with status. Evan Neal has no status. So for him to say this, nobody thinks that he's the only reason the Giants are losing, but clearly he took it that way. I think that one thing that surprised me about Neal saying this is that he's from humble beginnings. So the fact that he would say that especially the hot dogs, hamburgers comment really shocked me. But I just don't think there's any way a player can come back from this in this market. It's interesting when they drafted Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, the talk was that Kayvon Thibodeau would be the off-field problem. And it's surprising that Evan Neal, it turns out, of the two players, is the one who has created the biggest early stir and the one that really is going to go down as one of the defining moments of this disastrous season. But you look at Brian Daboll, his team has no discipline on the field. Evan Neal popping off. Daniel Jones walking right by his head coach after that interception when Daboll's in his face and keeps going as you see Daboll watching him, waiting for an answer that he's not going to get. These players are done with this situation. You have a player popping off at the fans. You have a quarterback looking at his head coach and looking away. You have a team right now that has no direction. None. My third and final point, as I head down to MetLife Stadium and Quest Diagnostics Training Center to continue unpacking this disaster. Look for me, by the way, on SNY today on Thursday. Going to do some TV from them live, live from East Rutherford. And I'll be on the airwaves there. Always love doing TV. Always love doing SNY. My third piece is directed at a friend of mine in the business, guy I worked with at hockey while covering the Rangers a lot, Don LaGreca on ESPN. I love you, Don. But calling Evan Neal a piece of human garbage, a piece of human trash, garbage ass, cut his fat ass, boo him in his daily life when he's at the mall. This is not fair. This is ugly stuff. And, listen, I am privileged to be one of the few people who knows Evan Neal personally, as far as New York media, right? Evan made a huge mistake here. Let's not demonize him in his daily life and use these types of words and degrading phrases about a human being when what he did here, and this is really a fourth point, I firmly believe, listening to Evan Neal, he was regurgitating things that he has heard, whether it's from his coach, whether it's from his general manager, whether it's from his position coach, Bobby Johnson, whether it's from a teammate, whether it's from a mentor in his life. This sounded to me like a rallying cry that he and maybe other players have heard behind the scenes that he accidentally said out loud. There's nothing wrong with a team behind the scenes saying the media doesn't know anything, the fans don't know anything. Ignore them and focus on yourself, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't say things like this publicly. And even if you say, I'm not listening to my critics, I know more football and I trust in myself. Even if you say things like that, you don't go the extra mile to calling fans sheep, degrading their livelihoods as human beings. And so I see even why somebody like Don LaGreca would get that angry, because he really is degrading people's livelihoods. And so someone like Don gets angry because he's kind of firing back at Evan's livelihood. But Evan is not a bad person. He said a bad thing and he made a bad mistake. But he's not a bad person. And I think it's important to keep it in perspective. Now, in no way am I defending what he did. In no way am I excusing it. And in no way am I going to not report on this diligently and critically and continue to hammer home these points about how bad the operation is right now with the Giants, how far it's gone, how it's in total free fall now after Evan Neal says these words. Complete free fall. I think it'll be interesting to see what Justin Pugh, the newest addition to the locker room, says or does or tries to do to get his hands around this situation. He is a leader, but he's also brand new to the team and still on the practice squad. But people have to step up here and try to get a hold of it. I just don't know if it's even worth it at this point. I mean, I think the ship has sailed. The Giants are in free fall. This season is not only over, it's just a question now of whether Brian Daboll is going to be the head coach next year. I think questions need to be asked about the scouting process, the evaluation process of having people in your locker room who are saying things like this, it's clearly a miss on some element of that. But I do want to keep it in perspective that Evan Neal is a human being and not a bad person, but he made a huge mistake, and it's something he and the Giants are going to pay for. They've already paid for it in public, and they're going to continue to pay for it. This has been Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. We are sponsored by Bet Online, also by Estate 98. It's an Esencia Day Cafe from El Salvador. Takes 3 seconds to make. Just throw ice and a tablespoon in a glass and stir. I drink it all the time when I'm doing this Talking Ball podcast. You guys are always great. Love the audience. Love listening. Rate, review, and subscribe. YouTube page at PL on NFL. Same handle on TikTok and Instagram at P Leonard on X, and at the New York Daily News website for all my writing and content. I will have a column and a scathing column, I would expect, at that, up on the website later Thursday and on Friday morning. Take care, enjoy, and hang in there, Giants fans. Hang in there. One of these years, they're going to figure it out.